Hi there, Bob
Hey.
Borchard. This is a little special presentation we're doing. Technical video, tongue-tied Bob, huh?
TT.
We have some far-flung people in our network of people working with us in our productions. And Bill has a very special background and talent with video production and film production. As an editor, has some great insight into this. And I thought it would be really fun if we could do a little educational video on style, video production. So I won't waste a lot of our time in terms of your background and your credits, Bill, but the basic premise here in all art forms is that we're communicating, we're telling a story.
Right.
I don't care if you're a fine artist, a photographer, a videographer, or a concert pianist or whatever.
Right.
So with video, it is probably one of the more complicated storytelling devices because it combines the visual, audio, to create a story, and setting is also a part of it. So I thought maybe you could just give me your quick overview of your approach to trying to tell the story.
Well, it all depends on what the story is, but obviously, you know, there's different styles of cutting. And when I cut the Bill Clinton documentary for the Democratic Convention, we had a lot of visuals going on. So there's the dialogue, and then there's just a whole lot of visuals going on. And then also in the background, obviously it was a historic film, so it was talking about his history, you know, when he met President Kennedy and so forth. So we had the music to set up the time, and then also just a whole bunch of videos. It just, you know, just popping with videos of that time, including, you know, the going on to the moon and all that. And so there's different styles. Other people do styles of the movement. Obviously the Ken Burns and where they separate the picture and all that. So, but the main thing is you don't want to overshadow what you're trying to say. But number two is you got to entertain the people, and if a person is bored, they're not going to watch it.
And I write a lot, and in the writing business, your first paragraph grabs them. If you don't grab them in that first paragraph,
Right.
When I moved to different media, audio, visual, doing things on the internet, I have one sentence. You have to get somebody's attention in the first 15, 20 seconds,
You got it.
or they're gone.
Right. And that's the same thing with a documentary or a TV show or even a movie. I mean, you know, people don't want to, you know, in this age where things are going at fast speed, people don't want to waste their time. I mean, sometimes, you know, you want to take a moment at certain times, but you've got to first grab them, and then you can take your moments. Then you can earn your moments.
In writing and in visual layouts, the white space is important because it creates the emphasis, the focus for your busy space.
Right.
And the same is true in video techniques as well, in terms of how you place your shots and the timing.
Timing. Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously you get your narration, whether it's temporary narration or the finished, and then you kind of just lay out your pictures and then how you want to do it, and then you just keep building, and you might rearrange, you might spread out the narration a little bit. You just you create a pace. I mean, that's what editing's about, is creating a pace.
So when you're telling a story, do you start with a visual or do you start with the narrative?
Well, it all depends. It all depends on what you're presented with. I've seen documentaries on PBS where they went one way and they completely veered off. So the only thing I can think of is they ran out of story and they went off to another subject matter to fill up the spot. I mean, when I watch it, I go, something's wrong here. But sometimes well, for instance, you're doing a nature film. I remember a Disney nature film that was out just a couple years ago with monkeys. And what happened was the monkey's mother was killed. And they didn't know what was going to go on. They called up Disney and said, we think the story's over, because they figured that this baby monkey was going to be rejected by everybody else, which it was. And all of a sudden, the head monkey, the king of the monkeys, took him under his wing, which is unheard of. And so that created a whole new story. So what they did is they got the visuals and they went back and kind of put the film together, and then they created the narration. So when nature films, certain things you start off with the visuals and you go, oh, this is nice, and then you just weave a story around it.
You know, I'm a planner, and city planner.
Yeah.
And one of the theories that I have is that planners don't do anything; they just get things moving. And when you get moving, you start developing a plan. Right. Things start happening, and when things happen, then you can start planning.
Right. That's
for
true.
Real. The same is true with respect to the story, but you have to have an idea of what that story is, a beginning and a middle and an ending, and building your video and.
Well, you have to have a concept, but as I said with the monkey deal, they had no idea where it was going to go. I mean, they were ready to pack their bags. So, yeah. And then when it comes to a documentary, I mean, for instance, we were talking about, one of the things is talking to Sally McCready Wallace, and who knows where she'll lead us. You never know with that interview where that's going to go, and then you might get a new concept as she reveals information. You might say, "Whoa, this is a nice area to go into." So,
for your background, Sally McCready and
Sally McCready Wallace,
Colonel McCready,
yeah,
was a famous aviator here in Mariposa, McCready Airfield down in Merced,
and our road to our airfield is named after him.
So the idea of editing, you have different shots. A producer will create different effects. You have a far off shot, a medium shot, right, and a close up, and they all have different. They tend to communicate different messages.
Right, right. You you just have to feel the film out. You have to see how it feels, and that's where it comes with experience. And I've had a lot of assistants who say, "Oh, I know how to run the Avid. I can edit." No, you can put A and B together, but it's how you finesse it, and you learn that. I mean, every editor I worked for, I learned new things. And one editor, he took copious notes. I mean, on the script, you would see a script, all these notes. And so I took that idea so that when producers came in, and they say, "Well, do you have another take and that goes a different way?" And in my notes, I would say, "Well, here's another take. Maybe you want to look at it." And they would see that I did my homework, and that I went through all this, and that I can easily say, "Well, he really flubbed up the line here." And some, when they don't know me, they're not going to believe me, so they'll listen to it and they go, "Oh, okay." And then pretty soon they start trusting my opinion. Other editors, Arthur Fournier, who's a producer of Law and Order and now I think it's Chicago Meds, and the way he would cut, he would jump cut things, like someone opened up the door. You have him turn the handle and open the door. Forget it. If it's an action scene, you have him touch the handle and the door just flies open. I mean, he loves to move things along. So there's different styles. And one thing I saw one editor do, and it was just 2 pieces of film. They shot. This was on a show called Riptide, and the guys were going to meet. A friend of theirs died, and the plane was landing. So they shot this long shot of the plane landing, and they come in and taxiing toward the camera. Okay, Then they had another shot of the two guys coming up, driving up, and they're looking out, and they get out of the car, looking out and watching the plane land and all that. Now there's two shots. Now somebody inexperienced would probably just kind of put it all together. It'd be a 10-minute scene of the plane landing. That's not going to fly. That's boring. So what you do is you maybe start with seeing the plane coming in. You see the car coming in to a stop, and then the plane touching down, the guys getting out of the car. You just time it, getting out of the car, and they're watching it. And the next shot, you see the plane taxiing toward them, and the guy's walking toward the plane, and the body is being released. So you jump all this stuff through. You have two pieces of film, which you do within 2 minutes instead of 10 minutes, and it's much more creative. And and you pull up things, and you create the mood that the producers are after.
I sent you an email with a little wiki on producers, directors, editors. The role of in producing a video, not like a photograph, it's more like a symphony, a conductor in a symphony.
Right.
There's a bunch of people that need to work together in order to make that sound come out. And that conductor can be the best conductor in the world, but the other people aren't doing their job. Right? And I was talking to somebody the other day about probably one of the things that our education system has been leaning toward, but not very effectively, is teams, building teams. In modern society,
sports teams have been a good way for people to learn how to work together. I think teams is very important. A friend of mine, his daughter went to they're in Cambridge. What's the name of the college? They're in Cambridge. The big. Anyway, Harvard.
Harvard.
There we go. And what they did is she was studying biology, but they teamed her up with lawyers, someone studying for law. They teamed her up with somebody in psychology. They teamed her up with all these different fields. And what they're hoping is that as these people grow, they also grow together, and then you'll be linked to these people later on in your career, and I think that's wonderful.
The idea of salon, you know about that. French Renaissance, and most of the scientists, the writers, the creatives, and whatnot in 17th century France, 18th century France, they were part of salons, and they were social gatherings where all these people with these different mindsets came together, and they cross-pollinated and fed on each other's ideas and perceptions of the world. And
I think a lot of clubs, like the Rotary Club, a lot of those clubs are kind of like that, where different groups, people get together, and they don't have the same career, but they're able to network. It's very important.
So the idea of working with each other in a creative venture is a little bit different than an artist so this is a unique media, and the team effort and the product. How do you manage to keep the vision?
Well, that's the whole thing. A vision is a hard word for me. It's a flex. Whenever someone says, "Well, I have this vision," I just kind of because it's flex. I mean, obviously you have a concept and all. I remember a director saying to me that he didn't use the word vision, but he said to me, "Well, I had a way I wanted you to cut this." I go, "Well, we can change it." He goes, No. I like the way you did it." So, and then, and so I thought that was interesting. And another Cohen was his last name. I forgot his name, but he did a lot of films in the years past. Rob Cohen, and he says, you know, I have an idea of how I want it. Let's say the vision, and he goes, then I see what the editor comes up with, and then we put it all together. He goes, because that's another idea. That gives me another idea, and we put it together, and then you know, then there it is. That's what I present.
One of the it occurred to me that when I was trying to organize get my head wrapped around these different players in the video production business, the editor sits in a unique position. You have the photographer out there making that picture, right? Or the videographer. You have the director and the producer with their idea of what the story is.
Don't forget the actor or the subject.
And the actor's interpreting the lines. But the editor gets to see the product that these people have produced.
And it's the editor's job to get it all together, and then also to make the performer look good. You know, a lot of these actors who get Academy Awards, it would be nice to hear what the editors had to do to make them look good, you know. Because I know this one actor who has been, in fact, you know, he's been in a lot of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy, and I just remember him way back in the 80s, and I just remember he couldn't even remember a line. And we just went through having to, you know, to find the right dialogue, and then when he screws up, we would be on somebody else and then come back to him and all that. We made him look good. And then here he has all these acting parts. I mean, it's been 35 years and he's been around, you know. And we were just always astonished that, you know, how did they, you know, but he looked good on film. But no one knew how much work it was to make him look good, you know. But then you have other actors who just make it simple.
You know, I have a couple of people working with me that are just starting out in this business, and I'm just starting out. Advice?
Well, I say be open-minded to learn. What I did with my assistants, I would always, after they would cut something for me, I would say, okay, save that, let's try something else. You know, it's, you know, in the old days with film, obviously you have all these splices and all until you cut the negative and all. But on videos with Avid and Final Cut and all that, you can make as many changes as you want and put, you know, and you still have the original cut. And that's what I, you know, try experiment. I would say if you do a project or you have a project and you still have the dailies, go back in that project right now and recut it. You know, maybe you don't need scene number 2. Maybe you can intercut the scenes and make it a flashback. Maybe you ought to be in a close-up at a sooner time. Maybe sometimes, you know, you wanted to be in that close-up but you couldn't make it. Well, try it. Try a jump cut. Experiment. That's what editing is about. Anybody can cut to me, to you, or I've got the neck for me, to you, and all that. Anybody can do a wide shot. That's boring. That's meat and potato editing. But to try something. Now, there's times where you need those moments. There's times where you don't do all this flashy cutting, that you stay on a 2-shot. But as far as when you're learning, try different things. And that's what I did. I learned from other editors. And these guys, you know, each one had certain qualities. Arthur Fournier had these qualities that showed me how to get around certain things. And you know, if you're not going to be open to learning a different way of doing things, then you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it in the business, because it's not what you want, it's what the producer wants. It's what the director wants in the end. And you can go in there and say, well, that's my best piece, why he's running it. Well, maybe the director thinks you ruined it. Your job is to make his vision come true, and add your little touch to it. And you know, they appreciate an editor who finesses and makes things work out.
Excellent. I would like to continue this sometime.
Okay,
because
sure.
This is a growing process for all of us. This is going to be available for some of our team members, and I hope you gathered something from it. I hope it spark some conversation.
Right.
We're interchanging or exchanging information on the internet via email. And I think that after you watch this, if you want to send me a message, tell me where I missed it, or Bill's.
or
Bill's
say, keep that guy off this internet.
We'll talk about it. Anyway, thank you for joining us, and catching you later. Thank you.